Hi there. Hi there. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today. My name is Tina Patterson. I am the principal attorney of Patterson Justice Council, PLLC, headquartered right here in Detroit, Michigan, where we help property owners, homeowners, and business owners to create and sustain lasting legacies, protecting their rights and respect for future generations. So, thank you for being here. Today is actually a bonus day. So, for the last 3 weeks, we've been going over how to create and sustain a legacy. And the title has been Building Blocks for Building a Legacy. And so, in each of the last 3 weeks, we talked about what are the steps, what are those initial foundations that we need to lay to kind of create something bigger than ourselves and to leave something beyond ourselves. So, step one, we talked about intention. Step two, we talked about action. Step three, we talked about protection. Today, the bonus day is multiplication. Okay, so not only doing it all over again, but like we'll get into expanding it even more. All right, so please do watch the last 3 videos. They will explain a lot and add a lot more context. If not, you can start here and then go back. They all tie into each other no matter what you do. Okay, so with multiplication, the first thing we're going to talk about is repetition. Repetition. So there are so many benefits of repeating the same things over and over again. And oftentimes I find myself talking about a lot of the same things, whether it be here on YouTube, during live presentations, in conversation with clients, because they all tie into the same principles. So we're going to start from the same core. Okay, it's just like a tree. You plant one tree seed, it all comes from one seed, but there are many different branches, right? And so you have to maybe look at this branch, and then go here, here, and here. And it's the same tree though, right? So we're talking about the same root causes. So that's the benefit of repetition, is really getting it in, letting it sink in, letting it really seep into your mind, seep into your thought that this is what I'm going to build, this is what it takes, right? So repetition. And repetition, when it comes to this, is going back to those building blocks, like I mentioned in the beginning, with intention, with action, with protection, starting the process all over again for whatever it is that you want to create. So, again, with intention, we talked about deciding to be intentional about making the next generation better than yours. Action, acquiring things that are going to be able to capitalize for the next generation. Protection, right? Having strategies in place so that nothing falls out of place for that next generation, for those people who are going to carry on the legacy, so that everything is managed for their well-being. Okay, so the first step in multiplication is going to be repetition, doing those same things over and over again. So I'm not going to go into each one of the steps because you can watch the last 3 videos about it. But just remember that repetition is very important, because the more you do it, the more familiar you become with it, the easier it becomes for you. And that's going to help when it comes to these next steps with, I don't want to say it yet, but it's going to help to really get that going, get that motion into place. All right, you're not going to be as overwhelmed. You're not going to be confused about the process. A lot of times, clients, they want to do some things, but they don't know where to start. Well, if they've already done it, it's going to be easier to do. So repetition is first. The next key is going to be expansion. And this is why repetition is important, because the more you do it, the more familiar you become with it, the easier it will be for you to expand and do it in many different places, because it's all going to be, again, those same principles over and over. You're just taking it to another level. And so when it comes to expansion, there are going to be 3 key pillars, like we talked about each sub pillar in the last few videos. For expansion, we're going to decide, we're going to diversify, and then we're going to divide. Okay, so let's go into decide. We are going to make the decision to first imagine. All right. Imagine, now that you have a nice legacy going, right? You have some things in place that you want to be able to leave for the next. Imagine, is there something further that you want to achieve? I think a big problem that I see, and with clients, but then also just kind of in general, is that once you get to a certain step, you stop. Or once you get to a certain age, you can only think about X, Y, and Z. Especially when it comes to this area of estate planning. I hear it from younger people and older people, but especially younger people, which is a little disheartening. is that once you reach a certain age, it's like you're just waiting for the Lord, right? Or you're just waiting to leave, to go on to the next life. And that's not true at all. Okay, it's not true. I have clients who you wouldn't even believe it if you saw them. They're in their late 70s, they're pushing 80, and they're still going, right? They're driving themselves around. They're still accumulating property. They're still renting out property. They're still active. They're still traveling. They're still reading. They're still doing so many things because their life is not over. It's not over until it is over. And it doesn't matter what age it's going to be over at, whether you make it past your first day of life, whether it's 80, whether it's 90, 100, whether it's 30, 20, 10. When it's gone, it's gone. So it doesn't matter the age. I want us to get rid of that. It does not matter the age. And I say this because a lot of times, right, I do counsel older clients and they have more because they've had a longer time range to be able to accumulate more and leave more to the next generation. But again, it doesn't mean that they're done. So expansion, they're deciding it's not over yet. There's still so much more for me to do. And that goes at any age. There's still so much more for you to do. So decide what more is there that you want to accomplish. Okay. And then the next part of it is investing. Invest into what it is you want to do, whether it is time. Do you still want to learn something? We hear in the news a lot of times about people that are in their 80s and 90s and they're going back to school because they say, guess what? This is still something that matters to me and I want to do and I want to invest my time in. I want to invest my money into. I'm going to invest my ability to acquire skills into, right? Invest what it is you believe in. And if it's more property, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Invest the time and money into acquiring that as well. And then also in people, invest in the next generation. Please do that. Pass on your wisdom to them. We talked about this a little bit in the last few videos as well. But invest in training up people who are going to be taking over where you leave off. That's pretty much the key. It doesn't matter if it's like the home, the family home, if it's a business, if you want to kind of create something new and start it up and then have someone else take it over. It doesn't have to be a business, but it could be a cause. We'll talk about that. Invest in those people because you're going to need them. You will not be here forever, but what you build up can sustain beyond your life with the right investment and the right people. Okay. And then instruct. Obviously, you invest in them, instruct them on what to do, instruct them on, if it's a business, or this is when taxes are due, this is when payroll is due, this is how our processes are. These are our procedures. If it's a family home, this is the mortgage company, this is the bill, this is who you pay. If it's, any other kind of venture, instruct the people on what it is that needs to be done. And it doesn't have to be you doing it, but you can tell them how to be done and they can add their own flair on it to make it even better. But you have to be able to give good instruction. All right. So the first key pillar with expansion is to make a decision. So to decide. And how do you do that? You imagine something further, you invest in it, and then you instruct whoever it is to take it on. All right. The second key pillar with expansion is diversifying. So diversify. And for this, it's really an ABC. I kind of like that. So diversify first, assets. And an asset can be anything that makes income. So anything you can generate income from. So it can be real estate, right? It can be a rental property. It can be an investment property. It can be a commercial building. It can be stocks, right? If you just want to invest in stocks and let those make money for you. It can be another business, whether it's your business, you want to keep investing in that, or if you want to gain a share of another business or partner with somebody else, that's another idea. A trust, right? Trusts are going to be a big part of this, especially depending on how much you want to leave behind. But diversifying, right, putting more assets into that so that the trust can then generate income that can sustain the next generation and it can outlive you. Diversify your beneficiaries. That's the next one. So first we have assets. Next we have beneficiaries. Diversify your beneficiaries. A lot of times people have this notion that they can only leave to family, or they have to. They're obligated to, and that's a moral sense. That's a moral duty that we want to and we should, right? Especially if we're parents and we want to leave to the next generation. Especially as like the older generation, we always want to leave something to the next, right? That's an obligation, I believe, but it's something that is really commonplace, and right, we should be trying to think that way and do that. But you're not obligated to limit yourself to that. So when it comes to beneficiaries, Who do you want to leave to? Diversify that. Everybody's not going to be good with the same thing. So a lot of times I'll have a client who has, adult, and they can be adult children too, 2 or 3 adult children, but they leave this adult child the house, this adult child the car, and then, a share of money or assets or the remainder for the rest of them. Because you have to know who's going to be able to handle and manage what. And then, like for children and maybe developmentally disabled adults who are not able to handle their own affairs, diversify what you can leave to them as well. There are a lot of times very specific trust accounts that you can set up for them. You can name very responsible adults to take care of them when you're no longer able to. Think about, what would you do to best take care of them still in your absence, and how can you set that up? So diversify in beneficiaries, and then whether it be somebody that's going to take over the business one day, or somebody that's going to lead up something you started, a nonprofit perhaps, right, or a foundation. A lot of people don't really talk about foundations. I don't think they think it's within their reach. Like foundation is so much bigger than, but it doesn't have to be right now. Think about it. But the main key is beneficiaries. Who's going to be taking over it, and who's going to be able to handle it, and who's going to really gain something from it. That's what they're supposed to do, benefit from it. Okay, so diversify your beneficiaries, and then diversify the ABC is your causes. Okay, and this is something that's very interesting to me as somebody who also dabbles in the nonprofit world, and does some kind of active things in that matter. What do you care about? What is it that really kind of sets your heart on fire, you have a passion for? You can do something and leave a legacy in that arena as well. I have a client I'm thinking about who I know gives regularly a good 5-figure sum to the church. Um, so think about something like that. Do you want to keep giving to the church in that manner? Put that in your legacy, right? Create something for that. Whether it be in your will, whether you create a specific trust for it. Again, we're talking about charities, we're talking about foundations. Think big. What is something that you really care about? Maybe you didn't get around to, but you would like to see continue to sustain, and diversify your legacy in there. So diversification, diversify your assets, diversify your beneficiaries, diversify your causes. And then lastly, when we're talking about expansion, right? So we decided we're going to do these big things. We're going to diversify in these ways, but then also divide. And it kind of seems counterintuitive and contrary, but dividing up is a very big thing. So first, we're going to divide up responsibilities. Okay. Again, who's going to be handling what? Kind of think big picture. If you're going to do this, what do you need in place? Okay. If you're going to set up a trust, who do you want to be the trustees, the people who are managing it? Who do you want to be the beneficiaries, the people that are going to obviously gain from it? If it's a business, yes, okay, you're going to name the next CEO, but then who do you need to be the next manager, right? Or who do you want to be taking on kind of the roles underneath that? What are the responsibilities of these people going to be? What is the responsibility of the executor of your estate? And have you talked that through with them? Divide up those responsibilities, because oftentimes we make the mistake of thinking we have to do it all, and then it gets us stuck because it's like, well, we can't do it all, and we don't know who we're going to give it all to right now, so let's just stop there. No, just understand that it's a process. Understand that it comes along with the territory, and that you will be able to eventually divvy it up in this way. But just think about it first. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Just understand that it is something that you would have to assume and put into place. So that was responsibilities, but then again, roles, right? Dividing up the roles again. So, for instance, if you're going to set up a trust, right, you give the responsibility to trustees, the people that manage, and then responsibilities to beneficiaries, which could be what they can do with it inside of the trust. Roles. So those are 2 different roles, right? And it could be the same person in both roles, just depending on how you want to structure it. But the roles are different. The role of a trustee is to manage the funds in the best way possible for the beneficiaries. What are the beneficiaries' roles? Are you going to say they can only do X, Y, and Z with this? If we're talking about a business, what is the role of the CEO going to be? Are they going to be the face of the company, or are they going to be kind of the behind the scenes? Like, what is what's this person going to do in your ideal vision? Okay, so the responsibilities, the roles, they kind of go hand in hand, but they're a little bit different because you have to really tailor make it for whoever it is you envision to be there. And then lastly, the rules and regulations. Divvy that up. Let them know this is what you can do in this capacity. This is what you can't do in this capacity. If it's a business, and your employees are there even, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. Make sure that we're kind of formulating these ideas and setting them in place so that there's just less confusion. It seems kind of, again, counterintuitive. It seems like we should know it all up front, and that's like really overwhelming. But the more you kind of have in place, the less work it's gonna take on the back end. Okay, so that's what it is when it comes to expansion: deciding, diversifying, and then dividing up responsibilities, roles, and then rules or regulations. And finally, extension. How long, okay, is this going to be? Now, there can be some funny legal rules, but when it comes to something like a business, those are created to be in perpetuity, unless you don't want it to be. You can say in 50 years, I want it to end. It's up to you. But the idea here is, okay, we expanded, right? So expansion, think of it as like moving horizontally. So we came from just like the personal will, then we have a trust, then we have a business, then we have a foundation, we have this nonprofit here, we have another business here, right? So it's kind of going out, where extension is going long, is vertical. How long? How much time? Right? Think about your time horizon, more with extension. So we're going to start with, obviously, number one is lengthen. Lengthen the time, lengthen the talent, lengthen the treasure. How long do you want this to last? If it's a trust, let's say, for instance, how long until you want, your beneficiaries to be able to gain from the trust? If it's a business, how long do you want it to be in existence, right? Start thinking about this. And this can be when you're still alive and then even beyond your own death. That's what the extension is about. We really want to get as far into the future as possible. And these are the thinking of it is what's most important. You think about it first, and then you find the vehicle that's going to help you get to that destination. Lengthen the talent. Again, this goes a lot back. A lot of this goes back into the people that you surround yourself with, and if they're younger, do they have more time to strengthen that talent and those skills? If they're older, wow, how much of that talent can you get out and then pass on to the next, right? And then treasure, extending the money as far out as possible. It's very important that you want to invest in the right things, and you want to make sure you get a good return as much as possible, and that you reinvest it, right, back into the things that matter most to you. All right. So then that's the first one with extension, is lengthening. Second one, which again seems kind of counterintuitive, is to lessen. Lessen your hand, lessen the help, lessen hassle. When I say lessen your hand, try not to put your physical energy into each and every single one of these projects. It's more so, again, putting your mental energy and then putting your currency, right, your assets, your money into them to fuel those missions, to fuel those projects. Because a lot of times what happens is we'll think that we want to set up X, Y, and Z here and then ABC over here. And we think we physically need to be the ones to do it, especially like with businesses. We have to be the ones, answering the phone and running the business and be in the face. No, you don't. No, 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 because that's going to just overextend you and it's going to burn you out. You don't want to do that. So lessen your own physical hand into these endeavors. Hire help, hire professionals to help you with the very, what could be complicated rules. Hire mentors, or, glean from them if you want to be able to make your vision better. And then lesson help. What I mean by that is sometimes there might be mistakes made, and you bring somebody on board and it's not working, even though they are doing this really big role or responsibility or task. Lessen it if it's not working, though, because it's only gonna kind of fester. in the future if it's just not going to be a right fit. And you don't have to do that with any ill intention, right? But if you just see that it's not working out, let them go and wish them well. Okay, wish them well again. It doesn't have to be mean and nasty. Obviously, if there's some kind of litigation that's going to happen, let it be. But remember, you have to protect your vision, and a lot of that has to be making tough decisions. So lessen the help that's not working, and then lessen the hassle. Again, automation is a big thing. If you can find some automated procedures, do that. If you can hire out help as soon as possible, as soon as you really realize that you need it, do that. And just, you know, a big part of it is really just l- putting yourself, like your energy, your I don't want to say your spiritual energy, but like your essence into each of your endeavors and activities, but not your physical self, because that's what's going to help it outlast. And we're going to get into this next piece now with the last pillar, legacy. After all the steps, this is where the legacy really begins, because with the legacy, you can outlive, right? So it means that all the things that you're doing can outlive you. Again, I mentioned like these books up here on my shelf. Many of them were written by people who are no longer physically here with us, right? But it outlives them. Some of the oldest books and writings and works in the world have been by authors and creators who have been dead for centuries. Shakespeare, I have one of his books up here. He's been gone for like 500 years, but we still quote his works all the time, and it's still here. The Bible. It's a 2,000-year-old book. It's still here, and it's still the most popular book of all time uh, because it's outliving, right? There's something in there that is still so core and essential to our world today that it's outlived the author. That's what a true legacy is, okay? Again, outlasting. So it's going to outlast your own time. Even if it doesn't, even if it's something that was written 200 years ago, maybe we forgot about it, it's still going to be around no matter what, okay? And it can outlast just, the physical times and whatever is going on in society. And it's just, it's a really, for me, it's a very inspirational thing to think about. I know oftentimes people get really kind of burdened, or they might feel like it's a really morbid conversation, but it is not to me at all, because this is just what life is, right? I've always heard that there are two guarantees in life. One is change and one is death. You will never ever avoid the two. They're going to happen. They have to happen, right? So when it comes to this life you have, what is it that you want to keep going after it's no longer here? And then do it, because it's possible. It's really possible. I think, again, that's why I talked about intention and thinking through it so much, because a lot of it is really getting over the fear and the doubt and getting rid of the thinking that it's not possible when it really is. And we see it all around us. Okay. And then legacy, the final pillar, outstanding. Leave something outstanding for the next generation to build on, because they're counting on you to do it. I think we all have a role to play in that. Obviously, we start with our own family, our own responsibilities, and we just, again, expand and extend from there. And that can be in a number of different vehicles, a number of different visions, a number of different works, diversifying, again, a number of different assets. And it's just a lot to think about, but I shared this in an interview recently. It's a very creative process, okay? It's extremely creative, because every day is a new day. Every day you're building or gaining some new knowledge, and you're putting it into action. And you're creating and sustaining your own life each and every day. But your days are numbered. You don't know when. And just because you have today, it doesn't mean you need to limit yourself to today. Okay. Think beyond your days and what you want to leave, right? And not just in a selfish way to like your own family, or just, to the world, right? To your community, to your church, to all the things that you care about. All of this stuff can be within your own plan, within your own estate plan. I think a big mistake is we think we are, again, are only limited to the people that we know and love. And that's not necessarily true, although that's obviously a great start where we want to be. So these are the basic building blocks to building a legacy. Again, you can go back through the last 3 videos, which talk about intention, action, and protection. And today we went over multiplication, and not just doing it over again one time, but many times. That's what multiplication is all about, right? Yes, 1 times 1 is 1, but 1 times 2 is 2. It just keeps going on. It doesn't have to be addition. You don't have to be slow with it, is the point. And that's where the repetition can comes in. And that's why it's first, because once you get used to it, you get accustomed to it, you can do it at a much easier, faster, and more effective pace. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. I thank you for tuning in. This has been such a great series. I hope to continue more of this. If you have any suggestions, leave it in the comments. We'll get to it. But if not, we will see you again at our regular time, which will be next Wednesday, May 17th, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, until then, have a good one.